Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP, UFO, science, emerging tech, and futurism. My name's Luis Jimenez. With me today, as for most times, I can't say always, but for most times, Mr. Ratherby Squidding and Mr. Michael Mataluni. Gentlemen, welcome. Happy Black Friday, post-Thanksgiving feast day?
Insanity. Leftover day. It's leftover day.
It's leftover day. That's a great name for today. Happy leftover day.
Happy leftover day, you guys.
Happy leftover day. Before we get started, of course, got to pay some bills. Want to make sure that you guys know about our podcast, which is available right after the show. So find us on iTunes, Spotify. Leave a rate and review. It goes a very long way. The podcast is growing. It's so cool to watch. I've got a new goal. It's 1 million downloads, just like the boys coming on after us. That other show with Dan Zetterstrom and with Andy from That UFO Podcast. I almost forgot Andy's name. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's been a long weekend, but they've got a really cool live show. They're doing their show live now, which is really, really cool to see. So congratulations on that, gentlemen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, ring the bell. That way you are notified anytime we do a show impromptu like we did on Wednesday. These gentlemen couldn't come because it was Thanksgiving weekend, and the DOD sucks when it comes to putting out messages regarding UAP and the progression and topic. But anyway, what else do we got? We want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. We've got our Discord channel, which normally every Fridays we hop into Discord and hang around for at least an hour after the show. But today, I'm not doing that, and neither is anybody else here.
Finally set in.
yeah.
Back for some turkey, more turkey and a nap.
Got to stuff more turkey in my mouth and just chill out because it's been a long 3 days for me. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the guests that we have today. Michael, can you tell everybody who's on the show today?
I would love to, except for my dog is now barking.
What's going on with the dog?
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We've got an amazing guest for you today. Sean Raasch is a UFO activist, researcher, experiencer, video blogger, singer-songwriter. He spent most of his life as a singer and a songwriter, but before the past year, he's been on a mission to speak out about UFOs. Welcome, Sean Raasch.
What's happening?
What's going on?
Happy
What's going
Thanksgiving,
on with you, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I like the new background, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I get very bored easily, so I'm constantly
You
changing.
change. Here's the thing about you, man, is you change things up a lot, which is good. That's growth, right?
Yeah. Well, some people would say, you got to stick with the same thing for a while. They really get your logo out there, and so it becomes familiar. But if I don't like it or I get sick of it, then I tend to act that way a little bit too underneath it all. So I just have to switch it up. And I'm a creative. I like designing, and I like writing music and all that kind of stuff. So, it's just like if I can't stay active that way, I won't be satisfied. So it is what it is. I like it. Yeah.
No, I totally understand that. I think it's the same thing for this show. I mean, that we've changed stuff all the time. I mean, just when we put ties on, it's simplest little thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, so you wear ties now? You're the tie crew?" It's just like, well, look, man, the show changes, it grows.
Or my bolo tie today.
I love it. No hat today. You got a bolo tie. That's incredible. A bolo tie with a hoodie and cool sport coat. You always make it a fashion statement every time you come on the show as well, which I appreciate. But no, I mean, like, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate, it's watching you grow has been fun and satisfying for me. I know when you first started out, it was tough, man. It was hard, but I thought, and just like it is with any YouTube channel, and I thought you were doing something amazing. You were doing something so different than everybody else. And that was, because you live in the state of Michigan, correct?
Close, Wisconsin.
He lives in Wisconsin, and it's a state where he's allowed to make phone calls to congressmen and senators, record it, share it, and he doesn't get in trouble for that. Unfortunately, in the state of California, I'm not allowed to record any phone call on any end. So I can't do that. And I was like, wow, man, that is the coolest thing that I think anybody could do, because I think of like those those still cams that sit on like an eagle's nest for 24 hours a day, and there's 100,000 people watching it. It's
Really?
wild. Yeah, and it sounds crazy, but it's true. But that's what I was like, damn, dude, this is cool, this is different. I wish this was something that we could do on the show. It was supposed to be a big part of the Big Phone Home, both 1 and 2, and on part 2, man, I'm so sorry, we just like absolutely we were supposed to come back to you, and the show was so busy and so packed with guests and producing it and doing all this stuff. It was so difficult.
It was kind of a rough time too for me as well, so I think for better for worse that's what it was. I'm glad I got to take part in a little bit of it. I love making the phone calls. I've been doing that kind of all my life, so sometimes it gets a little old, but at the right place, right time, like I can do it and I can be there. Just like the other day, how you had a call for action, basically, that pumped me up, that jazzed me up. So I wanted to make sure I got a couple calls in on that episode. Just to show people how easy it is, because it is really easy. It
really is, and I think that's important to show people that you're doing it. Because it does, like, what's cool about it is when you do it, especially when you get a response, it feels really good. Like when they call you back, even if it's just a boilerplate response or an aid, I always get joy in that. Oh, okay, there's actually somebody there listening to what I'm saying.
I unfortunately don't have the best rep, so I think next time I'm going to have to go for people that actually maybe have something to do with the amendment. Maybe I'll get a better response. Ron Johnson, you could imagine, isn't very receptive. But who Rubio was last time around when I was making calls and stuff. So I mean, it definitely makes a difference. It's just everybody's different. So that's why you got to try multiple people, I guess.
What other senators or congressmen have you had that issue with, where you call them and they're like, "Oh, you again?"
Oh,
is that the rep? Are you like are they like, "Oh, this guy," or like what are they responding with?
No, I just get a voicemail and no calls back. Like Rubio actually, like his assistant would call back and stuff. So I really appreciated that. And I've got a couple other calls back from Big Phone Home 2 and 1. So I mean, I know it makes a difference. It's just my particular rep is kind of a Scrooge, I think, when it comes to this. I tried something different a couple of days ago. I read a letter to him from a brigadier general in the United States Air Force and he wrote to General Sanford about a sighting he had in Saudi Arabia, and how he said, I might not get a word for word, but he said, "I never thought I would join the thousands of saucer seers." And then he said that, but the distinct path and shape and all that stuff make my notes on my sighting accurate. And he goes, "I please don't think that the desert got the best of me." So and I thought that was pretty impactful, because it's a brigadier general, United States Air Force, Saudi Arabia, writing to General Sanford, and that was like a couple months before DC, where he had that infamous press conference. And you see him sitting there, and he looks tired as all hell, and he's giving like cliche responses because he has to. And little do they know, a couple months earlier, this guy in Saudi Arabia just wrote to him about this stuff. So it's pretty crazy when you think about it that way. So I don't know. I just was hoping maybe that would be more impactful, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know what impact it has, right? People are listening. Someone's reading them at the other end, and just because there's no response doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact.
Yeah, for sure. And I first time I did the script, the UCR script, made sure that everyone knew that existed and that they could use that as well. But the second call is like, I'm going to try something different on this guy, but we'll see. It's also like the holiday vacation too. So when he gets back, who knows, I might get a call. So I wanted to say something too, if that's okay. Just about you guys. And anyone who's on Twitter and all that kind of stuff knows that once in a while Twitter goes into a little drama spell.
Get out of here, Sean.
No, you don't.
Go on.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. And, a lot of it, or at least when it comes to you guys, it pertains to you guys, it comes down to like money and getting, people paying stuff or buying merchandise. And to be honest, I've even gone down the route for a little bit where I was like, man, that sucks. But I talked myself out of it, I guess. Because in the end, like people, you can't control what people do, like individuals, and your fans love you guys, and your fans love to support you, and your fans love to buy your merchandise. And there is nothing wrong with that. People are free to do what they want with their money, and supporting this cause in whatever way that takes is okay, and it's good. And think of all the other things that they could be spending their money on. And it's going towards who I believe is a good person and a good group, trying their best to do good stuff. And you're not getting rich off of it by any means. You're just trying to support the beast, so to speak, like a local band would touring the road, touring the country. It's not easy. You're almost doing it to keep doing it. And I commend you for doing that. And if I've had any ill feelings towards that, I want to take this time to apologize for that. And just know that I have a broader understanding of how people are different, and it's okay to be different. And as long as you guys keep doing what you're doing, it's only helping. So,
well, hey man, I appreciate that.
Put that out there.
That takes a lot of moxie to apologize on somebody's show publicly like that. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I mean, I don't even think you really need an apology, honestly.
No,
like those are natural feelings to have. Everybody has them. I have them about other people's shows sometimes, but but then I have to go back to that core of kind of what you said, is that individuals are going to do things however they choose to do them.
Right.
You can only control yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And that includes how you react to things, and how you get emotional about things, and what you believe, and what you don't believe, or what you need more proof on. It's all an individual experience, not just in the UAP community, but just in life.
Well,
people. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say quickly, I mean, it's important to remember, like this topic has had so many people who have made huge promises and, gotten paid along the way, and then they didn't deliver. And I think that even if, even with that being the case, it makes it difficult, right? And I think that's part of probably, and I don't want to speak for you, Sean, but I'm sure that's where a lot of this comes from, where a lot of people are saying, well, if you're making money off something, then, you must be lying in some way. And I think it's important to remember, like, we follow this topic passionately, but we're not the researchers. We're not the ones making promises. We're not the ones saying, we're going to lead you to the promised land, because that's not what we do. We're here to cover the topic while simultaneously bringing in amazing guests and having great, fun, entertaining, interesting conversations about a topic we're all passionate about. And if people want to support that, that's amazing. And if they don't want to, that's okay too. Someone just posted earlier, is like, I don't think you guys see our chats if it's not a super chat. And that's not true. We just can't respond to every single one in the comment section. But I do appreciate that, Sean, because I think it shows that, you understand that there's a lot of perspectives on this. And, again, at the end of the day, we're just trying to keep Luis out of an Uber. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. And you know what, like, if we want this topic to get to where we want it to be, there's going to be all sorts of people, like way more than there is now, attempting to do different kinds of things or variations of what we're doing. Some will ultimately be clearly trying to rip you off. So, there'll be all sorts of different things going on. In the end, we have to have an acceptance for each other and the differences within each other, as long as they're respectful to each other. Right. Now, I have encountered people that just aren't respectful with it. In that case, I have to be honest with myself and just like lock it out and just say, okay, I'm blocking and moving on, But in this regard, there's no ill will with each other, clearly, and you're just you're hustling for truth, and I appreciate that, very much. So,
well, all I've done, and I hate using the word I because we're a team here, but the philosophy is when we come across folks who we've either rubbed the wrong way or are getting that vibe of, oh no, we've done something here. We reach out, but we do it privately. Yeah. And usually when I do that, I'm asking somebody, hey, I don't want to have this conversation with you in text. Let's talk. Like, let's talk over the phone. Let's talk in a FaceTime. Let's actually talk to each other, as opposed to trying to settle this disagreement through 180 characters or in a DM where people just go on and on and on and on and on. It's just like, can we skip all this and just go to the conversation? Because 9.8 times out of 10, when you walk away from that conversation, you have a much better understanding of where that person's coming from and vice versa. And sometimes you don't agree with them, and that's okay too. You're not gonna be friends with everybody, and not everybody's gonna like you. So
Bingo.
That's the whole thing, but all we can do is, again, control our emotions and control our reactions to it. Yeah. And if our emotions and reactions are based in respect, love, and kindness, like I almost dare anybody to find a DM from me talking to them, cursing at them, or belittling them, or saying, all multitude of things. I've written stern things, but I've never belittled anybody. And that's sort of the secret sauce is kill them with kindness. That's what we do. We kill people with kindness, because here's the thing.
I'm still alive, but
well, there you go. The thing is that every time somebody complains about our super chats or our Patreon or our any other ways that you can support financially, we give this show for free. We don't put anything behind a paywall. We don't, and not to say that those formulas are wrong. The pay scale formula, the Netflix formula, that's that's a normal thing now. Okay. Yeah. But for me, with the UAP community, the UAP topic specifically, for me, it should be out and people should be able to consume it as soon as you produce it. So that way you avoid that feeling of getting ripped off, or getting taken for a ride, because there have been so many people in this field that have done things. Again, I always say the documentary about Antarctica without stepping foot in Antarctica, and it's a $50 documentary, and it's gonna give you all of the secrets to everything you've ever wanted to know. Like, we don't do that here. We'll never do that. We'll never tell you what it is, because we don't know.
Wait, that's not true. That documentary?
It's not true. Yeah, unfortunately, I would see if I would get you if you paid for it, but I wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, man, look, it's, and here's like the people that complain about it, the way we raise funds, or we allow people like M. Brian here. Thank you so much for $20 super sticker.
Damn it, I hate that.
And you guys, look, I hear the people who are like, hey, we do read the comments without dollars attached to them, but you also have to keep in mind, we have to keep the show going. Like, we can't stop and read every single comment. And that's why we have a Discord. If you want to talk to us, if you want to ask us questions, if you want to really get deep with us, hang out with us in the Discord after this show. The link is in the description. So that's what Discord is there for. And we've done a lot of work, especially in the last month here, to make sure that the Discord is a place where everybody feels welcome and nobody is going to get ostracized or spoken down to or embarrassed. That's not what we're doing on our Discord. I know that BS was happening in the past. That's gone. We're not doing that anymore. So it's a place, if you want to have these conversations that you're having in this chat, join the Discord, and we'll be more than happy to have those conversations. Just not today. I'm sorry. We're incredibly tired.
Thursday and Friday we'll be doing it. Haley Masbrudge with a $9.99 donation. The show runs on a value for value model. We get value from it and return it back in some love. Cheers to you both, UCR and Sean.
Now, she said, first of all, Haley, you haven't given me that much in a couple episodes now, so I am second. You said UCR and Sean, so I expect a $5 check sent to my address.
There you go. You got it. It's you got it. Just send me the address and I'll make sure to get it to you. You can frame it. You can frame it in that cool little collage you got back there. Which, by the way, I meant to ask you, how are you lighting that? Like, what's going on there? Are those panels? Are those T-shirts that you pin on the wall and put some lights on? How are you doing that?
Those are. I just printed them. I did the graphic design myself, but I got them printed at Kinko's.
Right.
On a matte.
You guys have Kinko's out there?
Hell yeah!
All right.
And then I have like a couple stage lights because I was a musician and play shows and stuff, so I had that already, and I just have them shining at those, and they light up all kind of nicely and stuff. So kind of works out. Yeah, it's nothing too complicated. But I do put time into it because it's something I enjoy. So.
It looks.
Yeah, you're putting Michael run for his money in home studio.
You definitely are. I mean, look at. It's pretty close.
Not cool, Sean Raasch.
I feel like he's definitely got a cleaner one. That's for sure. I mean, between me and Rather, I don't know whose is more cluttered. I you know what? My girlfriend
Rather likes to go with the simple. I think he likes that simple.
just a nice green.
Yeah. He's just a simple squitter.
We got the same color.
Yeah. Any calamari for Thanksgiving, Rather?
Yeah.
No, just turkey. No, I might go tonight though. Pick some out of the sea. It's a fun activity.
What is your favorite squid recipe?
I just like to gently fry it. Cut it up, throw it in some oil, put some lemon on it. Minute or two.
What about you got to make your own recipe called Rather Be Squidding. That'd be a great restaurant.
Well, I mean, I feel like you're making a restaurant based off of one recipe, which is usually a recipe for disaster if you're going to open a restaurant. But I almost want you to open this restaurant and have a dish on it called Rather Be Squidding.
All squid all the time.
And it's just calamari. It's just a simply fried calamari caught by local fishermen. Rather Be Squidding. Amazing.
Simple as best.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty because this week was really, really cool. And you'd mentioned it earlier and I honestly, I think this is something that I really didn't think about when I first set up the phone homes, but the idea that the phone home template and website was a really great tool to lean on and example to follow when it came to reaching out to local state representatives. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn. That's not my thing, but it actually, like, people were looking to us and they were saying, okay, what do we do? And what committees do we reach out to? Who do we exactly call? And then we had, of course, articles being written that's saying, hey, reach out to Gallego. D.D. Johnson was in on it. You were in on it. Like, everybody galvanized and joined arms much faster than I'd ever seen on any other UAP legislation or undercutting or BS that the government is trying to pull with the DOD with this task force or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going through that acronym. I refuse to. It's ridiculous. But what do you think about that? I want to get your thoughts.
The MSG sauce.
The MSG sauce. The AOI MSG.
Yeah, that's what I was calling it. Well, there's a couple takeaways from it. I mean, the first one is there was a directive for them to do that, right? For them to have another office after the UAP task force. So the first thing is, well, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Then you go to the timing. I'm not sure what the deadline was or whatever, but the timing, obviously, like you'd almost have to be pretty senile to think it wasn't on purpose, right? Everybody goes away for a holiday vacation. They come out with this. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They put airborne in it for a reason, right? They're not. I refuse to believe that they're just like, oh, airborne. Yeah, UFOs are airborne, right? No, they know what's going on, So I think they did that part on purpose too. Is almost, I don't know. It seems like it would be a slap in the face kind of thing. Am I reading too far into that? I don't know. But
for what? What do you mean slap in the face? To who?
to a Gillibrand amendment.
Okay, so you're saying,
people.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Because it's airborne, and they know full well that Gillibrand's amendment is covering transmedium. They know that, people pay attention to, I'm sure, inside the DoD to what is actually going on in the UFO field. And one of the things that are quite obvious right now is the transmedium aspect of this in the US. So when they put airborne, it's quite like, come on, really? And then they do it. So it's only special air activity spaces. So basically, over military operations or whatever, when the military needs to use it, private companies can have special airspace as well if they apply for it with the FAA. But that's another thing that's just like, okay, so you're only going to cover this little area here and there. That's not very much.
Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think they took it like, okay, so they see this Gillibrand amendment, right? And it's vast, right? And it's incorporating, as you said, transmedium, airborne. It's looking into a lot of things, and it's very expansive. Whereas what the DoD and the Pentagon have done is create a much smaller office, which ultimately is only focused on certain areas. Do you think that's because they were trying to make this amendment look bad, or do you think it is really because they just wanted to consolidate some power prior to the amendment getting passed, if it passes, so that they could ensure they were able to protect sensitive information and keep it in the Pentagon without it getting out to Congress?
Yeah, there's a theory that could be the case, because I think it was one of the senators even said, if you don't have oversight, they can surely hide something in the broom closet. So, and I just learned that this Gillibrand thing, if it goes into action, wouldn't be until October next year. So think of all the things that they could do and accomplish before that even happens, whether it's hiding things or taking control or whatever.
Yeah, that's my concern as well.
Yeah, so that could be it. But to the first point, it's not going to make them look bad, because they look bad right now, I would say. I'm sorry, doggy. And the only other option I would say is, and it could be possible, is, think of what it said about, future information will be coming out in the coming weeks, right? And do you really think that they wouldn't have that information by now? And so is it maybe just a placeholder, perhaps, before the Gillibrand amendment, which everybody knows is probably going to passes?
You're
Maybe
saying
like
a placeholder, like the Pentagon is creating this as a placeholder.
Yeah, like we did our job. We did our thing. We followed through with the directive. Here's our little group that we put out. Okay, fine. Gillibrand amendment passes. Now it's that.
Right. So you're saying it's a defense mechanism to ensure they're not targeted later for not doing anything. Sorry, rather, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was kind of surprised about the very strong, negative reaction that came from, Elizondo and Mellon and a lot of people about this office, because, on the surface of it, it doesn't seem like it's a bad thing at all, right? It's another government agency looking at UFOs, which it doesn't go as far as the Gillibrand amendment, but it's better than nothing and a move in the right direction. And I guess the negativity that came out against it didn't really articulate the reason for the to that outrage against it. We're talking about some hypotheticals now, but it still seems a little unclear to me what the real threat is. Is there a threat that this will stop the Gillibrand amendment? Is that what people are outraged about, or is this more of just kind of a narrative kind of thing?
I guess the one thing it really could be, and what I thought of at least, and I can only speak for myself when I first saw it, was now that this is in place, will there be different senators who now say, well, there's something going on. There's something in place. I won't look bad if I don't vouch for this now. It's safer for me to back away. Something like that, possibly. That's one thing I could think of. And the other thing is no public reports or anything. And that got me at first, but the more I was thinking about it too, it's like they also said more information forthcoming. How do we know that's not part of the more information that's forthcoming? I mean, based on history and precedent, probably not, but who knows?
What do you guys make of Lou Elizondo's statement on this, where he says, given that elements still exist in the Pentagon who are actively underplaying the significance of this topic, this is akin giving an alcoholic the key and control to the liquor cabinet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's giving them control, right? Like, this is just something that they're kind of doing on their own. This is the evolution of the program Lou was involved in, ATIP, and then the UAP task force, and now the AOI message, or however you pronounce that acronym.
Right. Do you think rather though it's because
I don't think it's enough?
Do you think rather Elizondo's against, or not against it, but he was trying to be critical, think critically about it, and share critical statements about it because he had been in a Pentagon appointed office before, and he's seen what happened to him in that sort of office, and now so he's pointing out, oh, they're doing it again, and it's going to have the same result. Is that sort of?
Yeah, well, I mean, no one knew about his program, right? ATIP. So I think that, having it
there's a
being
difference.
announced is definitely a step in the right direction. I agree with Elizondo that, this isn't enough. We need something more, but I don't see how it's necessarily a bad thing just for existing. That being said, I'm Elizondo and Christopher Mellon are in the weeds in, the discussions about these amendments. So, they might know something we don't. And, the only thing I can think of is that maybe, there is the House bill and the Senate bill, right? And what the Pentagon does, it seems like it might be pretty close to what the House bill would have done. So, maybe there's some behind the scenes finagling saying that, hey, we have the House thing, we have enough, we can drop it. But, I haven't actually seen any evidence of conversations like that.
Right. Well, you're considering.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say, you're considering the idea that Elizondo is against it because he believes that this is a power play by the Pentagon to keep the information under them, and maybe it would take away some of the energy behind the bill, because he goes on to say, number 4, if you want to maintain UFO and UAP secrecy, this is exactly how to do it. 5, this is a direct and blatant attempt to circumvent and undermine the Senate. I mean, wow.
Here's what when we talked to Jazz. We talked to Jazz on Wednesday, okay? And let's be 100% clear about this. And this is going to answer, I think, your question, Swick McCloud, is what do Lou and Mellon know that we don't?
Right. This
DOD move has no power on this amendment whatsoever. Sure. It does not out-Trump it. It cannot under-sweep it. Here's what it can do, and this is where it gets dangerous, especially from a mainstream media perspective. The DOD has a lot of sway with the media, and they can be a very good distraction to the Gillibrand Amendment. And so the Gillibrand Amendment is getting pushed through. When that gets signed into law, that's when you're going to see mainstream media really kick up on this. But the only thing mainstream media really talked about, and Brian Bender's mainstream, I don't consider him mainstream because when I think of mainstream, I think Fox, MSNBC, New York Times, those kinds of mainstream medias. I think that they're scared that there was an article written where the only thing that was mentioned was this move by the DOD, this new office, and it mentioned nothing about the Gillibrand Amendment. But everyone who's in this circle, the really good, especially like the next level reporters above us, we're not reporters, I'm not trying to say that, but we know who we're talking about, like the Tyler Rogaways, Ross Coultharts, those types of media personalities. They all know, they saw right through this, and they were like, okay, this is an attempt to muddy the waters. That's all this office is going to do, is muddy the hell out of as much as it possibly can. But when this Astro office is set up and they go to a certain department, whether it be CIA, FBI, Air Force, whoever, they are going to have the authority and the power of the Senate and the law to demand the information, and they're going to get it. And if they get any flack, then the next step is, if they get roadblocked on some of these different departments, the next step is the next fiscal year, those departments that roadblock the information could have their budget slashed. And that's where the power of this Astro bill comes in. this AOI MSG, Chinese food substitute bull crap is exactly what they purposefully gave you. Two insanely stupid acronyms to confuse and to help, Michael's favorite word, obfuscate. Right? Like they are going to use this to muddy the waters, and I think that's the biggest fear from Elizondo and from a Mellon is that the DOD is not doing this with good intentions. The Gillibrand has good intentions. That amendment has good intention and is trying to get to the bottom of something. This is vague. It feels like it was put together at the last minute. And these acronyms that they put on the table are proof of that. It is here to confuse people. I partly agree with you, rather, in the fact that, hey, it's another government department looking at UAPs. What could be so wrong? I think it's the same office that was probably erasing emails, that was roadblocking information going from a Lou Elizondo level to a general, who was the general that he was trying to pass information to? The name is slipping my mind. 4-star general, but you get my point. Mattis. He's trying to get information to Mattis, is getting roadblocked by the people above him because it's too weird, or they're religiously bonkers to either the left or right. But I mean, that's, I think, the fear here is that this is just going to try to confuse people, and it's not going to confuse any of us, but mom, dad, sister, cousins, people who don't know about this stuff. I think this office maybe steals thunder when something is found or wants to be talked about or a report comes out. We're not going to know, honestly, until mid next year, maybe even December of next year. We're really not going to know how these offices are going to coexist or butt heads against each other. But it seems like everybody who's really close to the situation and is looking at the law, what's written from a legal perspective, everybody seems to feel that this office is there to undermine and to confuse. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth.
Well, what would the other option be too, is my thought. Like they had a directive to come up with an office, right? So I know the other option would be to do it more thoroughly and all of that stuff, but it's something they had to do. So regardless of, how they make it, aren't they still the same people who were, basically being secretive and trying to destroy this from the get-go? Like no matter what they wrote on paper, and they were going to be doing it anyways. So I don't know. To me, I think you hit it on the head with Astro. It's legal. It's legal legislation, and part of that is that they can go to any IC community, intelligence community, rather, and ask for what they want and get it. So that's what it is. So the only thing that really fears me is how long this MSG Sauce office can go on before Astro comes around, and what can be done in that time as far as further
It doesn't seem like the Astro office is
they can further hide stuff.
I think the Astro office has no control over that office, and this office, this DOD, this MSG office, they're not asking for permission. This office is being made,
right? But I mean, couldn't Astro still, like once they're around and up and going, wouldn't they be able to go to them and say, "Hey, give us your data. What are you working with?"
Yes. I mean, ultimately,
you would think so.
To your point, to Luis's point earlier, it doesn't actually undercut the bill. All it does is potentially consolidate power in the meantime. And then, what Lou is saying is that ultimately it's going to, it's the same office that has, in his words, persecuted whistleblowers and lied. So, I think we just kind of have to, I don't have any definitive statements on it. I just have to look at it from all of these different guys' perspectives and try to piece together much of the puzzle as we can.
Yeah. And to that point, I don't really understand that either, because hasn't every aspect of the government been lying to us for 70 years in this?
True.
What makes the DOD, worse than the
It's true.
the CIA, the intelligence operations.
Army, Air
Well, this
Force,
gives the power back
Navy.
to Congress, though, right? This would give the power back to Congress to investigate, and the committees in Congress to investigate, which are supposedly closer to the people than any of these other organizations. Now, we've obviously seen evidence in the past that has pointed that to be not true, but
Right.
yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, that and also I think Lou hit a good point too, like muddying the waters. Like, for instance, all the major media outlets reported on this almost immediately. Didn't report anything on Astro. Now, why is that? Literally one reporter I saw on Twitter saying, actually, tweeted about the MSG story, and then some people commented and he goes, wow, UFO Twitter, I had no idea about this Astro bill, very interesting. And then I put, does that mean we can count on you to report it? And he didn't reply, but
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's something to that. They know that's going to happen, right? They know that they're going to get this attention. So the reason is why did they want that attention? Is it as simple as just a power move, like we're showing our power, some psychological bullcrap, or is there more to it? I don't know.
Well,
What do you say,
when you
Mike?
talk about, oh, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
okay.
Well, if you talk about the timing of it, it does seem on one hand that it might, Wednesday before Thanksgiving is probably the best time to drop something that you don't actually want to get picked up by the media, right? And if by naming it, AOI MSG, it kind of seems like I think Lou said this on Wednesday that it sounds like they don't want reporters to be saying this and mentioning it. So this might just be, hey, we're doing the bare minimum, we're meeting the mandate that was sent out to us, and my hope is that it's not as adversarial to Astro as some people are making it seem to be. But time will tell, I suppose.
You're right, though. People came out swinging against it, with no real details because they, were forthcoming, even as opposed to the, that's what the memorandum stated. So, with that being said, Lou came out of the gate banging. So, he wasn't holding back. It's like, wow.
Even if I don't totally understand the reasons, I think that the call to action is good. Telling Gillibrand that the amendment is a good thing. There's no way you can be against that.
Right. And don't pull back on it because of the USDI coming out with this. And
yes,
at the end of the day, you can push just because whatever the hell acronym it is, I can't even say it.
MSG.
Nobody can. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's why I don't even try, because I refuse. Like, that's my stand against the DOD. That's the line I'm putting in the sand right there, is that stupid acronym.
Right.
It's so dumb.
I just want to make a point. Like, even if the Gillibrand amendment does pass, and the teeth that it supposedly has, its ability to go after budgets, but do you guys actually think the USDI or the DOD or the Pentagon, when Congress comes knocking and they obfuscate, do you think that they're actually going to come around the next year and cut the Pentagon budget? Like, I get the teeth are there. The teeth are there in writing. The question is, will they actually enforce that? Because name me another amendment that's actually limited military spending in this country. Like,
I have a little bit of insight on that. Just a little bit. Through documents and research that I've done, I also research, I have like black projects like the A12 or A11 and Oxcart and all that CIA stuff. And one of the documents I remember reading was a couple people discussing Congress getting involved. And somebody said something like, that's the last thing the Army wants, come knocking at their door is Congress. Everybody hates that. So, they, made a different decision based on that. So I think, these people, military at least, and probably DOD and everything, don't like Congress. I think there's real animosity there. So I think maybe it's important to keep that in mind too. Whether it's because of the budgets or not, I think it's just the oversight. It's like if you work somewhere and you have a group of people and you got a project you're working on for the company, do you want the freedom to, do it how you want, for better or for worse, obviously? Or do you want, a supervisor over there micromanaging you and keeping oversight? Probably not the latter, especially if you have nefarious intentions. But either way, it kind of cramps your style.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's probably some juice to the fire there. The more I think about it.
Here's the thing, I share your concern, and we talked about this on Wednesday too. And Britt, our friend Britt Inference on Twitter, Brit in Wonderland YouTube, check her out. She was saying, there's just going to be parts of this conversation that will never, ever, ever see the light of day, because it's too drenched in national security that has nothing to do with UFOs, dead bodies, craft, none of that stuff. It has to do with the process of collecting information. And you're going to run into these. And I think there will be moments, Michael, where the Astro office is immediately roadblocked and said, nope, you're not going down this road. And if you're going to try and cut our budget, it's going to be a problem. I think here's what happens. I think if you get an Astro office that's got real power behind it, and you get, say, a dozen different departments that want to play hardball, you can find the weakest of those departments and go, oh yeah, and make an example out of them to show the top dogs, you better give us at least a little bit more cooperation, or this could actually happen. And I don't think, from a political standpoint, it's going to be really interesting. Like, how do you think this hits if, say, a senator wants to make this the hill they're going to die on? Say Gillibrand says, we've gone to this department, they have obfuscated us, they've roadblocked us, and now we're going to cut their budget. And the either generals or maybe even the president comes in and has a conversation with the senator saying, hey, you're going down a slippery slope. Now, if you publicly come out and say, I've been roadblocked, we've written the law, we've done this, we followed every single rule, and now we're being threatened by the president and special access programs, like, from a media's perspective, I don't think people are going to, if you cut one of these departments' budget by, say, $1 billion, I don't think anybody's going to be crying them a river from a public perspective. But what do you got, rather?
Well, I think the problem there is that it's, how do you prove an unknown, right? How do you prove that these people aren't being forthcoming to you? And I think that is going to be one of the big problems. And I think that might be why we haven't had disclosure for a long time, because the ball was held by the government and they're holding it above all of our heads, and we can't reach because they have the only information.
I think the difference is now, though, is you're going to find some sections of the government going, yeah, give it to them. You're going to have sections that are going to be very cooperative, and they're going to have information that is going to be in a classified briefing, and that's going to wow some senators, and then they're going to go to other departments and they're not going to get nothing. And they're going to be like, well, wait a second. Yeah. Why does this department that is not that important, and I don't want to get specific with departments because there's so many, but why does this department have a file this thick and the CIA's got a 6-page report? How's that possible? I think, what do you think?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. I think that, maybe there'll be some cracks in the dam of secrecy, and that might start the floodwaters pouring through. Right. Personally, I think some of those cracks might be started by the Galileo project. When they start identifying things in the sky, it's going to be hard for the government to say, we're not seeing anything, right?
Right. But at the same time, you're looking at, even if Astro has teeth and it's able to push for information, it's able to actually start getting information, it doesn't mean we're going to get that information. I just want to be clear about that, because if it's classified, they're going to be giving it to congressional committees that have that are able to see certain classified documents. we ain't getting it. Like, that's not for us.
I think we can make an argument. Sorry, Sean, to cut you off, but I think we can make an argument that, hey, we understand classified. We get that. But the stuff that's publicly known, we want all of it. We want the gimbal. We want the go fast. We want the tic tac. We want this 24-minute video that Lou Elizondo has been talking about. We want the triangle photo that we've been teased about, that we know is in a file somewhere circling around Senate. Just it's being passed around like the worst secret in high school. It's like, we want that stuff. That stuff is publicly known. We want answers on it. We want people like Avi Loeb and the Galileo Project to be able to get some actual data that is going to help their search, or any other university. Just leave Galileo Project out of it. Any other university, any scientific endeavor where they should have access to this kind of information. Because I think that's the difference now, is that there is a science aspect to this that is starting to grow. And if science gets a whiff of technology that is sitting in some hangar or something, and it's able to save a billionaire like Elon Musk a whole lot of problems when it comes to figuring out thrust and how to get to Mars, I think that groundswell is going to get to a point where it might open the floodgates, but this is like, we're talking 3 to 5 years down the road. This is not going to happen overnight because these things have to play out. Government is slow. It's just, if you don't know that already, I don't know where you're living, but government runs slow. It's slow on purpose. So nothing gets rushed through. Everything is thought out as best it can. Of course, there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes with it as well. But I mean, I don't know. What were you going to say, Sean? Sorry.
Well, just as far as the science aspect of this is starting to grow, I mean, maybe on the forefront of everything and in the public, but the science aspect was actually one of the first aspects that they started looking into way back in the 40s, when they delegated the investigation of the CIA Physics and Research Lab, like all of it. So, sometimes, like, I think back to, those documents and what they said and what intentions were at that time. And, sometimes there isn't a whole lot of difference seemingly between then and now. And by that, what I mean is, whether people want to believe it or not, like what they looked into were, and there's clear documents that I have that say this. What is the ability for us or an enemy to create this phenomenon and use it against each other for psychological warfare? That was one thing. So much so that they sent a study to a psychological study branch of the government to look this up and down and see what the possibilities were. The other one was the implications on their radar system and not being able to tell an enemy from a mirage track, for instance. And the other one was the science aspect and what can they gain for their weaponry out of this, So, knowing that those most likely are still the aspects that they're concerned with, I think, you can gain some perspective from that too. Like, why the secrecy? Maybe they're using something that is real for psychological warfare a little bit, because maybe whatever they're doing with this in a scientific aspect is used for their weaponry. There's a lot that could be that could be done there and had there. Can I share a screen quick with you? Actually,
yeah, please do.
Okay.
And thank you, NeuroStream, for the $10 super sticker. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah. So
while you're doing that, I was just looking up something about who has security clearances in the Senate. And it says here, unlike officials at federal agencies, lawmakers do not have security clearances per se, experts said. Rather, members of Congress are by tradition deemed inherently trustworthy by dint of the offices they hold, although they are subject to punishment under the House Ethics Code for revealing classified information. So technically, they can be briefed on classified information. They just cannot share it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then again, I think if that information gets to a point where it's being like, if a group of senators within a powerful committee look at the information and say to themselves, the American people need to know this, they can make it public. If there's
Not if
enough
it's classified.
I think they can. I think they can.
That's
I mean,
not
they're
what this
they're
says.
gonna.
This says they will.
No, I understand what it. I
Okay.
understand what it says, but what I'm saying, for example, this is a really good example, even though it's a very divisive political thing to talk about. Guantanamo Bay and the torture that was going on there, and the process that it took to bring that story to the public. It can be done, but it has to be done in the right way. Does that make sense? If it's, but then,
Right.
but I think if you had a group, an entire, let's say, if you had both left and right in the Senate Intelligence Committee look at something and say, and it wow them to a point where they all came to a consensus that this needs to be shared, and they all shared it on the Senate floor, you're going to go arrest the whole committee?
I don't know. I
don't think so.
Well, maybe not, but what I'm saying is technically it is illegal for them to share classified information.
Yes.
Technically.
Yes, agreed.
And they can be briefed on it.
But I think there's also ways they can do it. There just is. There's ways they can do it.
I'm sure
they have to go through a process,
ways.
and that's why it could take a while, but there are definitely ways they can do it. And if it was compelling enough and egregious enough, you never know. Maybe a whole committee comes together after a classified briefing and says, you know what, we need to do something about this. This is ridiculous. They could go to the president of the United States first. They could go to the secretary of state. They could go down the line, and they could maybe get turned down at every single door, but then they could also all come together and just, I mean, it would be a very rare moment in American history, but I think they do it. They could. I don't think, will they? Probably not. It's a long shot.
Right.
We're talking pipe dream here, but Sean, do you have that ready to pull up?
Yeah, it's good to go. It's up. So I think you have to put it up, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, Chief Physics and Electronics Division, OSI.
Can you zoom
right?
in on this a little bit?
Crap. I don't think I can.
Can you do the pinchy thing? There you go.
Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, that works.
So it's going to Chief Physics and Electronics Division. Responsibility for maintaining current knowledge of reports, sightings, UFOs is hereby assigned to your division. By carbon copy of this memorandum, Chief of Applied Science Division is requested to provide support from a weapons and hardware standpoint. So that kind of gives you their prerogative.
This is May 27th, 1953.
So to speak. Mm-hmm. Isn't
Wow.
that interesting?
Yeah.
At the bottom, material on this subject being forwarded from OCI will be routed directly to Physics and Electronics Division. So it kind of shows you how they look at this stuff, and when first of all, it shows you that it's real. There is a phenomenon going on. And then it's
wild that they called it UFOs in the document. Just out of curiosity, just so everybody knows and has context for this document, where did you pull this from?
This is from the CIA FOIA reading room. Yeah, it's just you got to know like the stupid acronyms and what to look for and what to type in. Like for this one, I believe I searched AD/SI UFO. Because if you just type UFO, you won't get this.
Right.
Or if you just type UFO in ADSI, you won't get it. You'd have to put U period F period O.
Yeah. And just to emphasize, this is a letter from the Assistant Director of the Scientific Intelligence Department going to the Chief Physicist and Electronics Division at OSI. That's pretty wild. Rather, what are your friends? I always want to know what Rather thinks when he sees stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. They were investigating ball lightning, trying to figure out, if this is an atmospheric phenomenon, what causes it, and could we leverage whatever is, driving this force. So yeah, I mean, when I hear about people talk about reverse engineering stuff, in my mind, it doesn't necessarily mean that you actually have a recovered craft, but it makes perfect sense. If you look up in the sky and see something happen in nature, you're going to want to figure out how you can do that yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
I got another one for you if you want.
And just FYI for everybody who's listening, especially in the KGRA world, if like Sean Raasch is probably one of the best document pullers out there. He's brand new to the block, but I mean he's pulling some really cool documents to share and look at, and he does it almost every day on his show. So if you haven't subscribed to this guy, I would highly recommend go check out his channel, Witness Citizen, on YouTube. And find him on Twitter because he's always pulling stuff like this, and it's really, really awesome to look at.
Yeah, totally agree. And I guess I say that one of the main things that strikes out to me when I see documents like this is that it really makes me feel like we've lost 70 years of research and public discourse about this stuff, because that it sounds like that could have been written yesterday, right?
Yeah. Well, if we think that this Astro office is going to get the budget that we're sort of speculating, no one's actually come out with a number, but let's just say in the neighborhood of 100 million to 2.5 billion. Somewhere, I know that's a big neighborhood, but let's just say somewhere in that realm. Okay, $500 million is a nice budget. I hope part of that budget really goes to diving into the last 70 years and building a really wonderful picture officially of everything that's been, of documents like this, and see where they could go on the stuff that shouldn't be classified anymore. Like, to me, I think that's kind of where if you had the real power, and this is where I don't see any department anywhere going, no, we can't give you stuff 70 years old. No. Who's going to do that? Like, give us the last 50, from 1947. We want files from 1947 to 1980. Okay. We'll give you 42 years, to figure it out, or to not give us information. We want the first, 40. Like, I think that's a reasonable request. And I can't see any department going, nope, sorry.
What if they were just, like those,
anyway.
What if they're just like the three monkeys, that hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, and actually weren't looking at it and don't have these things? You think that the public, like the UFO Twitter, will accept it if they say, yeah, we've looked back and we weren't researching it and we don't have anything recovered? It seems like there's
if an
kind of a
lose came back and
that's
said
the
that
truth to them. Yeah.
I don't think so, man. I think it adds resolution. It's in the name of the office. If we could get more resolution on this. Okay, so if we find out through this office, yeah, there's no there, and when we say there, we mean like alien there. And somebody corrected me on this on the other show, because I said Jamal Thomas coined the phrase there, and then somebody was like, no, actually in 1937, so-and-so. I was like, 1937? Okay. Oh, sure, right. I stand corrected. Jamal Thomas didn't coin it. But anyway, I digress. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
It completely makes sense, and especially like having done all this research and looking at all these documents, I found enough instances that say things like, we don't have material of these things, physical evidence of these things, and they're in top secret documents that weren't really made for the public. And I've seen a lot of reports of crashes, military and civilian, right? But they always wind up being something prosaic, whether it be a meteor or a piece of a B-52 or whatever, that fell off, or a balloon or a parachute of some sort or whatever. And there's a couple ways to look at that. One is they just are prosaic, right? The other is John Keel in his book Operation Trojan Horse, where he says these phenomenons are purely tricksters and leave things like that, to get people off the right path, to steer them down the wrong path, so there's different ways to look at it. But as far as like that goes, and I mean, dude, I can't even tell you how many documents I've read now, like thousands, like at least a couple thousand, from not only just here, Australia, Canada, and others, and there's nothing on it. I can't find even like a hint at we found something and hit it or something, without saying what it is. And, it's easy. Of course, you could just fall back on, well, it's very secretive. Well, why isn't all these other documents secretive? Why is it? It's just interesting to me and somewhat frustrating. And then you get people like Lou saying things like, I believe that we have exotic material, right? And then you go on the Defense Technical Information, website and just type in exotic material to see what pops up. And there's tons of reports that pop up using exotic materials, using the words exotic material. So what does that mean?
Right.
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, I mean, Jamal, if you've never seen
It's just frustrating.
Jamal Thomas's interview with Jamal asked him that very question. So you're saying it's exotic material, which that's not made here on this earth, which means it's exotic material manufactured by something non-human.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's basically what he's saying. And that's what he said. And it's just like, why is that? Why are we just skipping over that?
Right.
And it's rather, what do you think? I see it on your face.
Well, I say, when you talk about exotic materials, I think that is a term used in science, and that doesn't necessarily mean not engineered by us.
Right.
It kind of means, high energy physics and high energy stuff and things that are in unusual forms of matter. I can't name them off the top of my head, but I don't think it necessarily implies alien.
But Jamal put all that in there.
Lou Elizondo is
like
alien,
he's like,
if you read it in documents, it doesn't necessarily mean
excluding exotic materials like highly classified skins on new planes, things that we've made. Like we're not talking about those. We're talking about they're there. Those are the materials, and he understood the question, and he seemed to confirm that yes, we have those kinds of materials. And it's hard to think
Ralph
about.
Blumenthal reported that live on national news.
Yeah.
He said that they had some of this material and were analyzing it.
Well, he said he spoke to he spoke to somebody who said that. So again, it's so difficult, right? Because
it's always a hearsay thing.
It's always a hearsay. It's never, like you said, Sean, it's never a document saying we've recovered this material, which we believe to be of alien origin or non-human development, and we've stored it, in this SAP or that Department of Energy program. You just don't see it.
And there's so many reports of recovered materials, so it's not like there's nothing. And there's so many reports of crashed vehicles where they actually put in the whole kit and caboodle to recover it and go after it and find it. But then they do, and it's a meteorite that goes as a Smithsonian
or a satellite or
apparently,
Well, I've always had a difficult time believing, like just trying to put myself in a higher intelligence shoes, if they even wear shoes. They can think of the construct of shoes of just being like the dumbest thing ever. But I'm just saying, but from their perspective, like I would risk the chance of being discovered by another species that could be more intelligent, just as intelligent, more violent, nowhere near as understanding. Because if the human race tells you anything, and it's really the example we need to lean on, is that we all have 10 fingers, we all have 2 eyes, we all function primarily the same, but man, we cannot get along for anything. So I almost cursed on the air. We cannot get along to save our own planet. So I would assume that's also out there. So to send a probe, to send a team of AI to go to these planets knowing that your vehicles crash, like I would never do that. I would never ever do that. Because what if one of these things crashed into the Empire State Building or the Santa Monica Pier or into the Taj Mahal? Like it would be, we would know. First of all, like that would be the confirmation, right? It's just funny how it's it's not convenient because the planet is so big and a lot of it is not made of cities. There's a lot, whether we like to think of it or not, there's a lot of vast space out there where these things could fall. But how has not one of these things crashed in a major populated area in modern times if it happens at the rate that people say that it happens? Like, there's just no way. We've had the mathematics of it. It seemed overwhelming that at some point we'd have one of these things crash in a big city. And I just don't know if a superior intelligence would risk it.
Would risk it for their, like, I mean, what do they have to lose though in that situation?
Because let's say you send it to a planet, because it's like a von Neumann probe. It just reproduces and sends itself to another planet, and you send it to a planet and your machine just happens to crash on a memorial for the greatest president that they've ever had or whatever it is. And they show up on your doorstep with light technology, light speed technology, and they're bombing the hell out of your planet because they figured out the tech, they figured out the trajectory in which it was coming from, whatever they're it's like the Native Americans, watching the boats land on the shore going, if they had known in retrospect, if they had known, they would have done everything in their power to make sure those boats never set an anchor down. And so that's what I mean. Like, it's a risk you're running from a galactic perspective. It doesn't even need to crash. If it goes into a planet or an atmosphere where they have the technology to trace your technology, it's like Sagan said, you're kind of knocking on the door and you might not like what answers,
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand the perspective. I find it hard to believe, like, for example, let's say we evolve another, 5,000-10,000 years and we have just this tremendous technology. And now instead of sending rovers to Mars, we send rovers to potentially habitable planets. I don't think humans are going to slow down. I don't think humans are going to be like, well, we shouldn't do that because we might accidentally disrupt something there. I think they'd be more than happy to explore and find data, and judging from the human perspective, generally they don't care if they accidentally destroy something, and they probably don't think that they're going to reverse engineer it and track them back to their home planet either.
Yeah, and you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. No, you got to start somewhere. Yeah. But if you knew your vehicle crashed all the time, why the hell would you send it out to planets that have intelligence?
Maybe you don't. Maybe they send it here, it crashes, and they have no way of knowing. They're like, well, we got to send another one to see what happened.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I feel like we're just punting the speculation football back and forth.
No, it really is a speculation football, but it's just something I like to think about.
It's fine,
dude. Like this highly technological advanced species can't figure out how to keep a machine that stays working. It's like a Honda. It just breaks down and crashes into the ground, and boom, you lose all of those assets. You lose all of that data, and you possibly risk your species being discovered. Yeah, okay.
What if there's 2 million though that have been here and 100 crashed, and it seems like it seems like a lot, but really there's been 1 million.
Well, I mean, but I'm just going off based off of how a lot of this community thinks. There have been thousands of crashes. They happen all the time. It's just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't buy it either.
I don't know. Like, I mean, just like you said, you've had a hard time finding documents that go anywhere near that kind of description.
Just the one I found was one crashing into a Pennsylvania YMCA. That's about it. And it didn't go further with what it was. So
interesting. I mean, the closest things we have is the Stevensville case, or in Pennsylvania, I'm thinking of the Acorn. For some reason, I'm forgetting where that one crashed. Roswell. It always happens. It seems like it always happens in America too, which is really convenient. But yeah, it's those things always make me go, oh, man, I don't know about this topic. It always gives me that gut check where I'm like, I just don't know. I don't buy it. It's hard for me to but I like those kind of gut checks because it always checks my belief systems, which is what we try to do here. always check our belief systems and push them as to the boundaries, if not break them, preferably. What do you got, Rather? You got that smile on your face.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think one of the coolest parts about the Astro office, if it passes, is that it's going to try to get to the intent of the UAPs around us, which I think kind of gets to that question. Are they, crashing and seeding technology? Are they just expelling waste, and that's what we're seeing instead of crashes? Or are they taking any actual interest in us or not? I think that those are some fascinating questions that are, hopefully we get some answers, because that would be incredible.
And it seems like the Gillibrand Amendment is worded in a way where it would at least start the ball rolling on getting those kinds of answers. But Sean, you had another
so this
file here.
Yeah, so this one is good because it's another like kind of breakdown report or whatever, but it's also from, I think it was 52. But it's just like how identical it is to now, right? Recent reports reaching CIA indicated that further action was desirable, and another briefing by the cognizant A2 ATIC personnel was held on the 25th of November. Interesting. Is that today? Yeah, anniversary.
It is. Oh, yeah. Well, that was yesterday. Yeah.
At this time, the reports of incidents convince us that there's something going on that must have immediate attention. The details of some of these incidents have discussed by ADSI with the DCI sightings of unexplained objects at great altitude.
Sorry, I don't mean to stop you here, but what is ADSI and DDCI? Do we know these acronyms?
There's way too many of these for me to remember all of them. I just remember them by acronym so I can search them.
Got it.
And then when I do my show live, I got a chatter, Robert Coford, who tells me as I go.
Got it. Cool. Remember, I just want to make sure. I mean, if we know the acronyms, I'd love to explain them. But yeah, no, we were talking about this on Wednesday, where it's just like these acronyms are starting to get. I just stop with the acronyms. It's too. I don't even know how they do it in the military. It's so ridiculous. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, well, look at this. Traveling at high speeds in the vicinity of major U.S. defense installations are of such nature that they are not attributable to natural phenomenon or known types of aerial vehicles.
And what is so this is a report from where to where? Where is this pulled from? To give us some context.
CIA again. I get like basically all my reports from CIA. Yeah, and I had done a show where I clipped these up so I could just bring them up, the good parts at a time. But I can also look up who these people are quick to ADSI.
Yeah.
Because that kind of stuff is important. Like, who are these people?
Right. What departments are these? And what year is this from? Same year, 53?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Definitely. ADSI Air Defense Systems Integrator. That's pretty important. Yeah. So, and the other one, that was a big thing for them was the radars pings, that they were getting all these radar pings, and they were worried that these radar operators wouldn't be able to tell the difference between one of these phantom radar tracks and an enemy.
Somebody asked while you're looking up, did you have another slide you wanted to show us?
Oh, dude, I have so many. It would be.
I know you do. Yeah, I know. We could be here all day with all the slides you've got. But somebody said, Lou Angeles, can you confirm if Elizondo is now in a media blackout? I heard this on Martin Willis's show 2 nights ago. I haven't heard of a media blackout. I did reach out on Wednesday morning when all this was going down. I hit him up personally, just saying, hey, if there's anything we could do. He wrote me back. And then I also requested, hey, if you want to come on the show, that we'd love to have you. I think your voice would be important here. But no obligation. It's so last minute. But I said then I sent the invite to his wife, and then I didn't hear back. So I'm assuming that they might, that could be true. They could be in a media blackout. Usually his wife is very good with responding back to me anytime we have requests or anything. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Usually when he goes quiet, it's a good thing. But I know when the last time I checked with him, he was literally on the phone with his DC connections, like basically giving them the counterpoints to this proposal from the Department of Defense. So I know he was working throughout the whole day. So that's probably why he hasn't been very vocal in the last few days, because they've been busy. And it's also it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, hopefully he has some time to unplug and have some good quality time with his family, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a good one.
But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if I heard from them next week. What do we got here?
This
Can you
one
zoom in again?
Yeah, I think so. No, you know what? I don't think I can. That's why I made these little ones to begin with.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is another one. Generally favorable. The panel believed that with addict support, this has to do with their debunking program that Blue Book had in 1953. So in 1952 was the biggest year of reports. Since 47, they had maybe like 400 some, right? So and it was the DC thing, so they started to take it pretty seriously, and right, that's when the Robertson panel came in. So Robertson panel came in January of 53. Out of that came Blue Book. A part of that was also the CIA creating this educational this basically educational debunking campaign to be a part of Blue Book. And this is kind of talking about that. The program of training and debunking outlined above might be required for a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years, or 80. At the end of this time, the dangers related to flying saucers should have been greatly reduced, if not eliminated. Cooperation from other military services and agencies concerned, Federal Civil Defense Administration would be a necessity in investigating significant cases such as Utah. Controlled experiments might be required, and that actually is a random one that I pulled up, but that actually gives you a taste why people just don't freaking trust the government on this stuff,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that could be like legitimate too, right? When the 50s are like 30 years after we started flying, so it is possible that there's a lot of weird glares and weird things that you see when you're up in the air that does take education and knowledge to help you identify and not attribute to a UFO. So, but it is interesting. That's a really cool find.
Yeah, I mean, like I have the entire document tells them what to say things are too, like birds or meteorites or whatever it is, and in it says it's just not. I don't know. I guess you would have to read kind of the whole report that it came attached to know that it's not very sincere, I suppose, because a part of it was 20% also are unexplained versus the 10% that they told the American public. So it's just stuff like that.
John Tesser's got some funny lines here. Okay, team, how about we tell the Earthlings we're here without scaring the hell out of them, and then hey boss, why don't we crash an old spaceship in the desert, maybe throw in some dead bodies. Yeah, I mean, like it's dude.
Throw some dead bodies.
I mean, you know who I could see doing that? A player on a game. Like a Sims game where you can control tornadoes or monsters that hit the cities and destroy it. Like, could be a sim where, hey, let's throw in a UFO crash. And,
let's see if they build a pyramid.
Yeah, see if they build a pyramid or start exploring outside of their their space. It'd just be interesting. Like we keep getting told, like, man, this would freak you out if we really knew the truth of what was going on, and sort of how this idea of we're just a petri dish, and this could be something as scary and simple as we're just a sim game. We're just a sim game, and we're getting thrown these scenarios to see how maybe we're a model of something. We model things all the time, and how people would react and how things grow based off of certain data points. But yeah, man, it'd be
obviously been talking about that too recently. Like he was at the National Cathedral thing, talking to the theologian, and they were talking about the God and everything, and Avi goes, "Let me give you a twist." Right? And he goes, we're so close to creating our own civilization in a petri dish. We're creating 3D printing hearts and cloning things. Like, we're so close to creating our own life. in our own universes, like that are small. So like, who's to say, that that's not us? And they're,
Right.
we're in somebody's freaking medical room, laboratory.
It would that would suck. That would suck. That
Well,
would
but I
suck
mean,
to learn.
this is
What
the
if,
argument that people say. It's like if they found something like this out, then the world would go to hell, and everybody would start running in every direction, and it would be pure calamity. And I always chuckle to myself a little bit because we've always had human beings have been building mythologies around the creation of existence since the beginning of time, and they've changed again and again and again and again. And sure, we've had civilization collapses throughout history, but generally they're not specifically because of a change in belief system about the existential nature of the universe. Usually it's economics and politics. Has very little to do with human mythology or our understanding of our existential reality, right? So I don't know. I don't buy the idea that if we were to come up with the information that all of a sudden it would just be pure chaos. Humans are resilient. We talk about this all the time.
If we found out we were in a petri dish, you think people would still pay rent and go to work?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because it's so far removed. It's still theoretical in their minds. They can't.
It's not like they can just jump out of the petri dish.
Right. They can't. They can't experience. They can't experience that reality. So it's still a theoretical, even if it's proven or disclosed.
Yeah. Well, do you think society would then create a new religion or
man?
Just like to the gods that are injecting things into the dish?
Maybe one day this petri god will take us out of here and we can see the heavens of the laboratory.
Yeah. Holy cow. Well, I wanted to switch gears with you, Sean, a little bit because I know a couple of weeks ago. And we're going to open up the phone lines here for 20 minutes at the half hour mark. So if you could bring up that banner rather, and Bill, if you could open the phone lines as well, we'll see if anybody's got any questions or any thoughts on the week's news. But I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I never got to watch this, and it's been on my watch list. It's just been super busy for me. But you did have an experiencers panel on your show a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to pick your brain about it. And let me see what Bill's got to say. Not sure if the banner's is number.
Is it 855 or 765?
I think it's 855. It spells KGRA. I think that right. Does 5483 spell KGRA? Yeah, correct, that's the right one. All right, that's the right one. So I wanted to, because in your bio, even you come at this from an experiencer point of view. And for you, doesn't I can sympathize with this, and I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like for you, it doesn't. You don't need the document. You don't need any government or any official to tell you that there's a there. You've experienced it. You've actually I've never heard your experience, so I'm wondering, did you share that experience on that panel?
No, not really. Okay, no.
Is that something you're comfortable yet sharing?
If you want me to tell you it, I can tell you. First of all, I do need the documents. I mean, that was my, I think for a lot of people, at least who have experiences, some of them are a little more vocal and say, I know what the deal is, just because they're people just like everybody else, and they all have different opinions, experience or not. But for the most part, after an experience, I think you'll find most people are just confused. And they think about if they're, crazy or not. And they look for truth in their own little ways because the government's so slow with it. And my way of kind of doing that was, what it could be most truthful logically to me. And it's like, well, their own documents, what do they say? So I went hard into that to find my own truth. And what I found was that something exists. What it is, I still don't know. I didn't see aliens. I didn't see, mantids. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see a spaceship. What happened to me was more, cognitive and consciousness based. It was the year coronavirus. It was really going strong. I just moved into a new house. And because of the new house, it was at a closer location to the bowling alley where my dad would bowl in the winter. And I used to do that with them, but stopped because I was kind of far away. But now I could do that again. So, I was going to bowl with them in the winter again. And as the bowling season was approaching, coronavirus was raging, and we didn't have any, vaccines at that point. And my dad was still diehard, like, no, I'm bowling. Screw that. He's 76 years old. A lot of people didn't really take that seriously, or you're not going to tell me what to do and what I can't do. So as it is approaching, I told him, okay, I'll do it with you if people are wearing masks. I get there. No one's wearing a mask, and they're all old, all in this bowling alley. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't be here and support this. And he kind of wigged out on me and wound up storming off, squealed his tires, whatever. And the next day we got in a really bad fight over the phone, like the lowest blows he was throwing at me, and it got nasty. And for some people, and I say this when I tell people, but for some people, I understand that that's not weird. Unfortunately, for me, I could have never imagined that. The only reason I did imagine that happening at some point is because 2 years prior, I had a nightmare, I guess, or a dream where we got in a fight like that, and it got to like physical stuff, like pushing and blows, and it stayed with me all day. Like, why would I dream that? That would never happen. And here we are. It's actually like happening, like that bad and that intense. So a couple days prior to that argument, I think maybe I wish I would have wrote it down, but at least maybe 2-3 days before it, I'm walking in my house from finished smoking a cigarette, and look up, and right above the house is a sideways like teardrop, and it looks like it's right above the roof line. And so it would be like 40 feet away from me if that was the case. And it had like a border around it, like some sort of like living type of border that was in constant motion. It was filled with a thick, dense white substance that was constantly in motion, whatever it was. There was a little curve to the teardrop, and it was in and out. It didn't come from the sky or anything. It, like, if this stuff is dimensional, that would make sense. In and out. It came in and left. And I was blown away, but I didn't think like, aliens or UFO or anything. I was like, that's crazy. And that's how I left it. The dream comes true. I still am not really connecting those two. And I'm really just thinking about the argument at that point. But after that happens, a couple days again, after that happens, outside smoking a cigarette, looking at the garage, and light zips over my shoulder. And for whatever reason, I knew to keep looking in that direction where the light was going. And I just felt like I was going to see the same thing that I saw a few days ago. And sure enough, here it comes, except it's not a sideways teardrop. It's a perfect like cylinder basketball size thing, but it's made of the same exact like material or substance or whatever, with the border and the thick, dense white substance in the middle. And it seemingly goes like on the other side of the garage. And the garage at that time was like 12, 15 feet away from me, really close. And with the light and everything. So now I'm thinking like, like for those who, first of all, I don't expect people to believe me or what to think of it or whatever. I'm just telling you what happened. But just imagine for 1 second if that did happen to you. Like, how do you make sense of any of that?
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do? And it is frustrating because it wasn't like an abduction. So I can't say, I know there's aliens or whatever. Like, it's almost more confusing because what the heck is this?
Right.
And why did this happen around this huge event?
Do you think those event that was correlated?
I mean, I have to, don't I? Because it was in the like. I mean,
Well, may I ask you?
Sometimes I think like maybe they're not, and I'm thinking too much about it. But it just seems too too coincidental, I guess, you know.
Let me ask you a personal question.
Sure.
How's your relationship with your dad these days?
Great. And, you know, it got to be good again, talking about UFOs.
Is he a believer?
Yeah, he had his own sighting that I never even knew about.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. His was, he was, I don't know where he was or whatever, like walking home or something. He lived in half farmy kind of country, but still some city. It's called Wind Lake. So you could look it up if you want, but you saw a thing with like beams, and he thought they were at like a gas station, like beams in the sky, like, you know, whatever, sail or whatever. But he said like multiple ones were coming up and they were coming from the sky.
Wow.
And he got really freaked out. He said, I never told anybody about that. I just now told you.
Interesting.
And my brother saw a bunch of lights that he told me about that were moving in weird places, but he doesn't make anything of it. He's like, I don't know what it was. I just saw it. So it's weird how that comes out then.
It's so funny, but dude, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, you know, because I've shared my experience on this show many times. Michael shared his. And yeah, I always find it hard because, I mean, for me anyway, it was up close and personal. I saw the lines in the damn thing. Like it was, but I also know how the human brain works. And I know how my sighting is definitely nowhere near as recent as yours. So I know for me anyway, from 1993 to 2021, my memory of this thing has absolutely changed. That's just fact.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see, and I keep promising this, and I'm going to make this happen, but I'm going to go back to where that birthday party was and see if I can sort of track down the people that were there, because the thing that really sort of struck me for mine is the adults in the room were also very confused by it, not just the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's a weird perspective to walk the rest of your life with having those kinds of experiences. So I appreciate you sharing it and having that conversation, because I think eventually we're gonna, if we think the ball's going where or if we think the ball, we figured out what sport the ball belongs to, and we start playing this game, we're gonna have to have this conversation. We're gonna have to go over this part of the game because it's in the rules. It's how you play. We have to discuss this.
And we are anyways too. Like we're still discussing it like our experiencer panel, but that also doesn't mean that we're sitting there going through the different details of the probes and ships and all that.
Right.
We're really just talking about how to live logically as an experiencer through all this stuff, and how different people treat you, even in this same community. You get stigma, in the community. You get stigma from being an experiencer from different types of people. Some people don't even mean it, because they haven't had their own experience. And
I think it's so,
and it's okay.
And you made this point earlier about being respectful, and I think it's so important for folks. I think the biggest challenge is when people say, "I know," like even as an experiencer.
Yes.
Like I've experienced something, and I'm not gonna say I know and you're wrong. I think that's where we make a mistake, and that's where it all just the fabric just gets torn apart.
Yeah, I would have a hard time having an hour-long conversation with an experiencer or not that thinks they know what this is, and that's one of the reasons I like Avi too. He's like, ego is like the root of all evil. First of all, if you know, then what are we doing here trying to figure it out?
And also to your point, I mean, some will say, well, I'm trying to warn you, I'm trying to tell you the truth, and you're not listening. And I think that's where, that's where it can be dangerous. And that's where things can become cult-like, is when you have people saying, I know the absolute truth. If you don't agree with my truth, well, it just simply means you're not ready to hear it, or it's not, and it's like, that's where I just got to be like, pump the brakes, because you're
but
allowed
it's
to
also
have
hard.
your truth. You're allowed to have your belief, and that's cool. But the second you feel the need to indoctrinate somebody else in that is the second it becomes dangerous.
No, I agree. I agree with the indoctrination part of that discussion. But it's also like, it's got to be frustrating for that person. It's like witnessing a car crash or a violent act and then being told, chill, pump the brakes. You know, like I've seen something and you're denying my truth on what I've seen. And for like some of the experiences that I've heard for some of these people that are having them are frightening, are sexual, enforced sexual kind of nature, where they don't have the permission of whoever is doing these things, and they weren't asked, and then they're brave enough to come out and tell that tale, and it's met with pump the brakes.
No.
That's gotta be
not what I'm saying.
I know that's not what you're saying, but that's how they see it. You know what I mean? But you're right. Like, there's a point where they get to I don't want to paint a broad brush with this, because this is not every experiencer, but with some experience, it gets to a point where they try to indoctrinate that truth into a fact. And
if you don't agree with them,
if you don't agree with them, they get very upset.
Right.
But I can understand from their perspective why they have such a visceral response to people going, pump the brakes.
Well, first of all,
because
the thing
trauma. There's some sort of trauma, regardless of what happened to them. There's trauma there, and so now you're dealing with somebody who's been traumatized, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is, in this situation, like, people are unique to themselves, and that's not different for experiencers either, right? So, like, people can know that they've had an abduction experience and know that they've seen grays and know that they've been on this ship or whatever. That's different from knowing that they actually are aliens from somewhere, and telling people that. Like, I think that's where the difference is, and so when people say that they've had this experience and I know this is what happened to me, I have no reason to not believe them. But when they take it further than that, even, and say, and they come from Zeta Reticuli, and they're saying that they're coming to save our Earth from doom, that's when there's a problem. But that also isn't unique to experiencers. That happens just about in every topic you can think of.
And it's still okay. Even if they want to believe that they come from Zeta Reticuli, I don't care. The problem is when they say, you don't believe, there's something wrong with you. That's where I'm just like, pump the brakes.
No, I'm there. I'm with you. You know, like, even having the experience that I've had, I'm totally with you. But you know what's really funny is I had a crazy vivid dream last night that I got a hole in one. So I'm crossing my fingers.
Had that dream. Get out there, bro.
Yeah, I need to get out there and start playing next week for sure. Nice. Guys, we have about 8 minutes left. If you want to call in, feel free to call in. This is a great way to interact with the show.
To the KGRA folks who are out there listening who can't see the phone number.
Oh, yeah. For my KGRA folks on the road, if you want to call in, the number is 855-472-5483. 855-472-5483. Give us a buzz. We got about 8 minutes to take some calls. We'll be more than happy to talk to you and answer any questions you might have. But unfortunately, we can't tell you where things come from or who they are. So if you have that question, unfortunately, we won't be able to answer.
I can tell you where I was born, St. Joseph.
Yeah.
How do you know that, bro? We could be in a simulation.
Yeah. And I think, if we're ever going to find truth, it's got to be in the humility of, our understanding of this topic to begin with, and respecting those opinions as an experiencer, respecting how difficult it is for someone who has not had that kind of experience to believe, dissect, or treat you for your experience. There's still responsibility on both sides of the aisle as an experiencer and a non-experiencer. And a non-experiencer shouldn't feel less of anything because they haven't, because most people who have lived kind of tortured lives, and wish they rather had not had that experience, my goal really is I want to, meet and reach people as much as possible that are experiencers and aren't. Doesn't matter to me, but that are humble and show humility in this topic, and have as small amount of ego as possible when it comes to this. And I think no matter who you are, if you come to the table, the disclosure table, with that kind of mindset, it's gonna go well.
Yeah.
It's gonna go well, and more numbers the better, the more power, the better. And like J. Christopher King, he's become one of my best buddies on doing this stuff. You should check him out. But and he's had some wild experiences. But when we talk, we're not sitting there saying like, mantids are this and they're coming from this and they're gonna do this, and he'll tell you he doesn't really know. It's just what I saw. I don't know what it is.
What do you got, rather?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you always have to be open to the possibility that you're going to be wrong, right? And there was a kind of an interesting discussion on Discord where, where it's like, even if you're the hardest skeptic and you don't think these are real, you have to at least give, a 1% chance that, the experiencer tales are telling real events. And, on the converse of that, the believers who have these experiences, have to be at least 1% open to the door that, maybe there's some psychological or some other things that could explain what they saw. It has to be a little bit of a sliver of an open door on
right.
both ends.
It's going to be a mixed bag, isn't it? There's going to be people have maybe a screw loose or two, and there's also going to be people that really had this experience where they saw things like they were physical right in front of you,
right?
And maybe some who had maybe kind of an experience and embellished the crap out of it, or vice versa. It's going to be a mixed bag.
Variables. And I think, and Avi points this out a lot, and this is why he's looking at this from a physics perspective and not from a human evidence perspective, because we all have 5 senses. All of those senses are interpreted by the brain and communicated to whatever, we still haven't, we don't even know what consciousness is yet. Like we can't explain.
We don't know what gravity is yet.
Yeah. Like we can't explain a lot of these things. And so so many people, so oftentimes, I mean, even in a court of law, an eyewitness testimony is one of the weakest forms of evidence. And so you have to consider that the human brain is fallible when it comes to, understanding exactly what an experience is and means.
Right.
Yeah, but don't throw it away, because it's incredibly interesting. Whatever caused that experience, it's interesting to know what caused it.
Absolutely.
When it's all you're working with too, you almost like this is kind of all we got. So to me, it's the eyewitness testimony is important, but to me it's more the sheer volume of eyewitness testimony over the 80 years that report like the same kind of things that are like, that's something.
Right.
Well, Chris Bidell made a good point. He says, so you guys are correct about experiencers. However, I would also say that there are a lot of scientists that maintain a similar echo chamber, even in theoretical fields where it's conjecture. And he 100%. Absolutely nails it right on the head. It's true. Like, and we've kind of exposed those biases a little bit from Avi, I mean, when rather just simply put the idea of a warp drive or a Cuvier drive on the table, he was like, that's science fantasy. Like that's no way that will happen.
That's pure poetry.
Pure poetry. Yeah, exactly. John Musical, $5 donation. Most people I talk to about disclosure, including everyone at the Thanksgiving and when I went to, never heard of and don't believe any of it's real. Very sad. That could change soon here, John. It could change soon. I don't know if it's ready for the Thanksgiving table yet. And like that's where we are. I don't know if it's a discussion
depends.
That is
Can I
ready
slap this down on a Thanksgiving table?
Yeah, right. Can I convince my family with this document?
Look at this CIA report from the 50s.
Like nobody at the Thanksgiving table. And you know what? That's also a pretty good standard of what would you take to somebody. The Thanksgiving table is going to be, I think, even more critical than a senator's desk, right? Because people know you and they're not going to be afraid to share your opinion with you. So, bringing them, that's why it has to, in my opinion, and I know artisan Tony, who's in our show, there's not a reliance on government, but government is going to be a big part of this story. It's going to have to be it's going to have to be if the president of the United States says, the Astro office is made. They give a briefing to the president where they have to make a public statement because a whole bunch of senators have encouraged him or her to do so. That's when you can take that conversation to the Thanksgiving dinner table.
It's
the president of the United States said it, and there's a new 24-minute video, or there's a new, the definitive picture that was caught by the Galileo Project and a team of Harvard scientists. I think if you threw that on the dinner table, you might start swaying the dinner table. With the stuff that's out there today, I mean, good luck on your phone going, check this video out.
Yeah.
This is a Tic Tac. I mean, I think the audio of it to me is the most impressive part, not the video.
Right.
But, I think we're getting there. I think this Astro office is going to, hopefully by next Thanksgiving, in a year from now, we'll have some better
space
things.
Birds.
Yeah, space birds. We'll be able to bring space birds to the dinner, the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Look at Case for Infinity. My family refused to believe Jack Sarfati is going to invent Tic Tac technology, even though a robot AI from the future said so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's
Weird.
true. All right. Well, we've come to the end, everyone. We did not. Did we get any calls? No calls.
No calls, which is
rare.
Good.
This
Never
was
happens.
a slow Friday, man. Everybody's
everyone's
absolute lull. They probably woke up this morning, went to the mall after they cooking and cleaning the whole day before. But hey, it was whatever. It was still a fun conversation. I'm glad you were here, Sean.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me,
dude. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we got to clear the air. We
don't have enough people to not be in it together.
Exactly. That's a wonderful point, man. All right, so before you get out of here, Sean, please tell the good people where they can find Witness Citizen.
You can find me on Twitter at Witness Citizen, and Instagram where you find a lot of good document stuff, and my YouTube channel, Witness Citizen. I stream a lot and frequently. Just added 2 co-hosts on Monday nights. I got Priscilla,
nice,
Quantum Witch, and on Wednesday I have Jake Christopher King. So I got 2 new co-hosts.
Awesome, man.
So yeah, keep in touch. And we have NUAP Secrecy event December 17th with Ross Colehart, John Ramirez, people from all over the world, and surprise special co-host for a 2-hour block that I'm keeping tight to my chest, but I'll let you know who it is soon.
Oh, can't wait, dude. Can't wait for that. Keep us posted. All right, Mr. Sean Raasch, thank you so much for hanging out with us, my man.
Yeah,
later,
thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, that was another week of shows, another week of fun. Speaking of John Ramirez, we're going to have him on the show next Friday. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a very interesting conversation. Rather, what do you got coming up this week? Anything?
Yeah, I'm researching supernovas that happened nearby in our past and a rogue planet. So subscribe over at Rather Be Twitting to keep on top of that.
Ooh, that sounds dope.
That does sound dope. Michael, what do you got coming up this week? Anything?
I do. I'm just trying to remember who I've got coming on next Thursday.
That's all right.
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. And
right.
but I do want to encourage people to make sure, if you're listening on KGRA or you are listening here on YouTube, make sure this show will actually be up on the Unidentified Celebrity Review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and that'll be within a few minutes after the show. And then same thing for Singularity Lab as well. Okay, so we got a good one coming up next week for the Singularity Lab. We've got the Debrief Founders Circle. So we've got McMillan, Micah Hanks, MJ Benayas. So that'll be a good show next Thursday as well.
Right on. Awesome. Well, you guys heard the man. Show will be available on Spotify, iTunes, right after the show. Make sure you leave us a rate and review. Check out the Patreon. Thank you for all the super chats and the moderators in the chats. We truly appreciate you guys. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers. If you haven't subbed to the channel yet, please smash that subscribe button, like button, and ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime a new show pops up, impromptu show pops up. And that's it, guys. Stay tuned for the other show with Andy and Dan, the Signal. They're going to be doing a live show right after this, which should be a lot of fun. So other than that, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Thank you so much for coming aboard and getting weird on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP, UFO, emerging tech, science, and futurism. My name's Luis Jimenez. For Michael Mataluni, Rather Be Squidding. Have a great weekend, you guys. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.